Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So Democrats admitted that Joe Biden could not defeat Donald Trump. They decided to essentially coup their sitting nominee for his vice president, Kamala Harris, who has become the presumptive nominee for the Democrats, and it definitely begs a lot of questions. Is she going to be able to go out there and defeat Donald Trump, or is she going to get a big boost from this, or is Donald Trump even going to have an easier time? There's definitely a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I think it's important that we examine Kamala Harris's record, examine kind of her origin story a little bit, understand how she got to this point, understand her past record as somebody who's been a senator, as a vice president, taken a lot of political positions over the years, and understand how we should probably navigate this. How should we attack Kamala Harris? Because she is not a strong candidate on paper. She is very unfavorably viewed in terms of the public. Donald Trump has a higher favorable rating than Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has a higher net favorable rating than Kamala Harris does. So when you look at this, it's like, yeah, on paper, she's easy to beat. We'll talk about why, but still, Democrats doing this definitely get a lot more people paying attention. Joe Biden was somebody who is not exciting. They kind of get this honeymoon phase of excitement, and Republicans, many of them are kind of worried about, if they're willing to do this, what else are they willing to do? We'll see the media probably just go all in on this AstroTurf rebrand of Kamala Harris that's going to be taking place over the next 3 months or so leading up to Election Day. Is it going to work? We'll have to analyze it, but it's important that we kind of do a little bit of a deep dive in this video, give people the cliff notes on Kamala Harris, because she's somebody who on paper, you should not be able to lose to this candidate. You shouldn't be. Plain and simple. She has more dirt on her than arguably Biden has on him. She bears all the negative aspects of this administration, but also there's more uncertainty, which Democrats can use that as a glimmer of hope and say maybe she could beat Trump and maybe she'll energize more voters, which, might be true to an extent, but at the same time, there's so much to attack her on. It's possible that independent voters could reject her even more than they would be rejecting the status quo with Biden. And it's important that we look into this and we look into Kamala Harris. How did she get into politics exactly? That's another question. She went to a subpar law school. She became an attorney. She failed the bar on her first time. She eventually did pass the bar exam. She met a guy named Willie Brown, and we don't have to discuss that, but definitely he advanced her career significantly. She became the district attorney in San Francisco, which is not really something to be proud of in general if you are running for politics nationally. And then she ran for Attorney General of California. And as a Democrat, she could only get 46% of the vote as the Democrat nominee. If it wasn't for the Libertarian Party and all these third-party candidates in the mix, she wouldn't have even been able to win as a Democrat in California. And all the other Democrats that year performed relatively well compared to her. She was a chronic underperformer, electorally speaking. She won her Senate race in 2016, but she was able to do so off of name recognition and fundraising. She went head-to-head against a no-name Democrat. She actually ended up losing the Hispanic vote in the process. And then she ran for president in 2020. She was touted as a rising star by the establishment and by the media, but her campaign utterly imploded. She was attacked by Tulsi Gabbard, and she cratered in the polling. She fell below Andrew Yang. She fell below Tom Steyer. She even fell below Michael Bloomberg, who didn't even formally enter the race at that point. Some of these names you probably forgot about. Some of these names you've probably never heard of, but it just goes to show how weak on paper Kamala Harris truly is. But furthermore, her career was saved because she was picked off the trash heap of the clown car known as the 2020 Democrat clown show. All these, dozens of people that ran for the Democrat nomination didn't go anywhere because you had the media pressuring Joe Biden, who already boxed himself into picking a woman to be his running mate, into picking a black woman. That's essentially why she was chosen. There weren't a whole lot of options. Biden went with her, and Biden himself called her a DEI hire. Listen.
To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country and starts at the top with the vice president.
So you hear that. But Democrats now, if you decide to remotely question Kamala Harris and, her stature and standing within the Democrat Party today as a testament to her identity and her being a DEI hire, you're the worst person in the world. But these were the same people that were pressuring Biden to pick a black woman. These are the same people that basically agreed at the time that it was historic, and that's really why she was chosen over, a great deal of other possible candidates. But either way, that's besides the point. Technically, it's true. Kamala Harris did not benefit in her career off of her merits, but still, I will tell people it is a trap to sit here and attack Kamala Harris on, her past with Willie Brown and being a DEI hire, because even though those things are true, and that's really why she was able to get to where she was in politics today, Democrats are going to try to drum up a lot of sympathy, for her if Republicans go down that road, whereas there's just so much other dirt to attack her on regarding policy that if you just do that and you just kind of showcase her and her lack of intellect, people will read between the lines and draw their own conclusions and realize that she's not fit for the Oval Office, because she's not, plain and simple. She's extraordinarily far left. Per GovTrack recently deleted the rankings. I wonder why, but when she was in the United States Senate, she was the most liberal senator of all time. More liberal than Bernie Sanders. More liberal than Elizabeth Warren. She was the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. And when you look at her policy record, it's easy to understand why. The voting record is one thing. The voting record doesn't fully encapsulate everything, but when you look at her policy record, there is a lot that's going beneath the surface there that showcases how far left and radical she truly is. And far more radical than Joe Biden. Joe Biden was in support of private health care. Kamala Harris called for abolishing private health care, which would knock off, hundreds of millions of Americans off their plans. She went so far as to co-sponsor the Bernie Sanders health care plan. Seriously. She has aligned herself with the far left on numerous occasions. She, in fact, is far left. She called for significant tax hikes on families making above $100,000 a year, which, that sounds like a lot of money. It's not exactly a lot of money compared to what it was, 10, 20 years ago, but that's still 40% of families. 40% of families take in six figures, and she wants to significantly raise their taxes and throw them off of their healthcare plans. And she's flip-flopped a lot, but being a flip-flopper doesn't necessarily help you. If you're able to communicate how she's a flip-flopper, probably will hurt her. Look at Mitt Romney, look at John Kerry for examples of flip-floppers in the past that flipped and flopped on the national stage, pun intended. But she's also not just supported a universal health care plan that would be extraordinarily unpopular, abolish private insurance, but she supported giving health care to illegal aliens. Illegal aliens. She supports that. That's an extraordinarily unpopular policy. She supports sanctuary cities. Even Tucson, Arizona, a very liberal city, rejected. They voted against becoming a sanctuary city. Not a popular position. They don't want to enforce immigration law during a border crisis. She also supports amnesty. She went so far as to float the idea of abolishing ICE. And these are things that Biden smartly stayed away from in 2020. But Kamala Harris did not. She wanted to abolish ICE. She compared ICE to the Ku Klux Klan, Border Patrol agents to the Ku Klux Klan. Again, majority of ICE is actually Hispanic, by the way, just for reference. She also called for mandatory buybacks on guns. She wants to gut the Second Amendment, have these mandatory buybacks of whatever weapon she deems scary enough, and she wanted to micro-stamp guns when she was Attorney General of the state of California. Again, very, very radical policies that are out of step with the average American, and especially the average, slightly right-leaning independent. If some people could stomach Biden, barely, they're probably not going to be able to stomach Harris if Republicans get their act together. Furthermore, we talk about the Green New Deal. It's a caricature. It's basically virtual satire. It's like the Republicans satirizing what Democrats believe. That's what it was. And Kamala Harris not only supported the Green New Deal, she co-sponsored the Green New Deal. That would get rid of the fossil fuel industry. It would mandate a lower consumption of red meat. She wants to control what Americans eat, disincentivize them from eating steak. This is America. This is a problem. And it would cost Americans trillions of dollars in taxpayer money. Taxes would have to go up. Otherwise, we'd be in crippling debt, even more crippling debt that we're in right now. She supports a ban on offshore drilling. She supports a ban on fracking, which would definitely, remove any chance of us being energy independent, and it would cripple the American oil industry. And in terms of her prosecutor brand that she's trying to kind of build, I'll be a prosecutor president. Really? Well, the prosecutor president, wannabe, paid bail for BLM rioters in 2020 during the summer of chaos. And many of those people went to reoffend. Some of those people, like George Howard, committed murder. Basically, you have, several Willie Horton cases directly on the hands of Kamala Harris. She cheered on the Defund the Police movement in 2020, celebrated when LA Mayor Eric Garcetti decided to cut their budget. Seriously, this is a problem. She opposed the cash bail system. So people basically can say, we'll come back for trial. And then, a lot of these people will reoffend. And that's a major, major problem. She also supports zero limit on abortion. Keep in mind, most European nations set the limit at 12 weeks. She supports no limit. She's already running a far-left campaign as well. I mean, that's kind of a white pill for conservatives. It gives them optimism because she's having these ads where people are flying these, transgender pride flags in her ads, her first ads, and, doing media appearances with RuPaul, the drag queen. You talk about running a serious campaign. Already, it's a very terminally online campaign. It's meant to energize the far left, a lot of these, young far left people. But usually what that does is it turns off a lot of older voters as well. So I hope she keeps going down that path, but still, we'll see. This is an early time to define her. If she's defining herself as liberal, that's good for us. But we need to also be defining her for exactly who she is. We don't even have to lie. We don't have to take anything out of context because it's all there. She's given it all to us. And she also has a record as VP. The border was Biden's worst issue. It's going to be Harris's worst issue, and probably even worse for her because she was put in charge of the border by Biden. She neglected it completely. She lied about visiting the border, and she helped cause the border crisis, telling people that they need to come, they're welcome. And just as Biden and Harris took power, it's exactly what they did in record numbers. You probably have 10, maybe 15 or 20 million people in the country because there's so many gotaways and we don't exactly know how many of them are in our country. It makes the border more of an issue than it already was with her on the ticket. Democrats already trying to say, she was never the border czar, except for the fact that Axios, which is the same outlet that said that she wasn't the border czar, for years was calling her the border czar themselves. Kind of a little bit of a problem. And every aspect of the Biden administration, whether it's inflation, whether it's the border, whether it's foreign policy, it's all on her shoulders too, because she's the second in command. So it's not like you really have to change a lot of messaging on that front. And in terms of her personally, she's not palatable, which was a problem for somebody like Hillary Clinton that the Democrats put up in 2016. Just the odd personality aspects. Her hyena laugh is very off-putting. Not to mention her obsession with Venn diagrams.
Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles? Right. And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams. So I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, the 3 circles.
Or her word salads.
Television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else. that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but just limit it to what we have seen. For us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present. I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree.
Or her descriptions of foreign conflicts being so juvenile.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
Or her inauthenticity, talking about smoking weed in college, listening to music that didn't exist at the time.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like in
And
college,
I inhaled. I did inhale.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. But yes.
I know you have to go. They say you have to go. I just wanted to
I
ask.
just broke news.
I mean, was it in college? See, I like stuff like that. That's a real honest answer.
Real.
What were you listening to when you was high? What was on? What song was it?
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac.
And arguably worst of all, she claims she washed collard greens in her bathtub.
So I know how to make a mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask me to make greens for them for Christmas. One year, I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub. So I am not playing around.
Not to mention, she's from California, which is kind of an L in and of itself, given the fact that California is the least liked state in the union. You're going from Scranton Joe to San Francisco Kamala, who's got this far left record. Definitely, one could argue that it's a gift to Donald Trump. It's true that Kamala's younger. It's true that Kamala can kind of complete a sentence, kind of. But at the end of the day, there's so much baggage to the point where she's arguably even easier to beat. But we need to focus because they're going to try to drum up as much fake astroturfed enthusiasm as possible for her, and they're going to hope that the media, trying to recreate her image within a few months is going to be enough to carry the honeymoon period of Kamala Harris directly into the White House. And we need to keep our eye on the prize. We need to not take our foot off the gas. We need to not be overconfident, but also we need to not be demoralized and make sure we can go out there and defeat Kamala Harris and make Donald Trump the 47th president of the United States. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you guys like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.